You know, we think of our eyes as just windows to the world, but they are so much more than that. They're actually these incredible, high-performance living cameras. And today, we're going to follow the amazing journey of light as it travels through this biological machine, starting right from the very first moment it makes contact. So have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does a tiny speck of light become this whole universe of sight that you're experiencing right now? We're going to trace that path, step by step, from the first surface it touches all the way to the final electrical signal that gets zapped into your brain. All right, so our journey begins right at the absolute surface of the eye. Before light can even think about getting inside, it has to pass through this complex, multi-layered shield that most of us don't even realize is there. We're talking about the tear film. And yeah, it's not just salty water, not by a long shot. The tear film is this super sophisticated fluid that creates a perfectly smooth optical surface. It washes away all the gunk and debris, and it even fights off microbes. Seriously, without it, your vision would just be a blurry, uncomfortable mess. And what's really fascinating is that this tear film isn't just one thing. It's a precise three-part system. You've got the outer lipid layer, that's an oily film that literally stops your tears from just evaporating into the air. Then there's the middle aqueous layer, which is the watery part that provides most of the moisture. And finally, there's a sticky inner mucin layer that helps the whole thing cling evenly to your eye. Each layer has a totally distinct and vital job. But here's the catch. If just one of those layers gets messed up, like if the oil glands get blocked, the whole system can start to fail. And that is the root cause of dry eye. It's an incredibly common condition that really makes you appreciate just how critical that little protective barrier is for comfortable, clear sight. Okay, so our light has successfully passed through the tear film and the cornea. Now it's heading deeper, into the internal, fluid-filled chambers of the eye. This is a carefully controlled space, like a pressurized inner sanctum that has to maintain its shape and health from the inside out. I mean, think about it. The eye is a soft biological structure, right? So what keeps it from just collapsing? And how do parts like the lens and the cornea, which have no blood vessels, by the way, get the nutrients they need to survive? Well, the answer lies in a very special fluid. This fluid is called the aqueous humor. You can think of it like the air inside a tire. It creates what we call intraocular pressure, or IOP, and that pressure is what keeps the eyeball perfectly inflated. But at the same time, it's also a delivery service. It circulates nutrients and carries away waste products for tissues that the bloodstream just can't reach. And this is a continuous, totally dynamic process. The aqueous humor is constantly being produced by the ciliary body. It flows through the pupil, circulates around the front of the eye, and then drains out through this spongy little filter called the trabecular meshwork. It's basically a 24/7 plumbing system that never shuts off. Now, this balance between production and drainage, it's everything. The whole system is designed to keep the eye's internal pressure within a very narrow, very safe range. But what if that drain, the trabecular meshwork, starts to get clogged up? Well, if the fluid can't drain out as fast as it's being produced, the pressure inside the eye starts to climb. And that elevated pressure pushes on the incredibly delicate optic nerve at the back of the eye, slowly and silently damaging the very cable that sends all visual information to your brain. This condition is glaucoma, a leading cause of irreversible blindness. Okay, so our ray of light has made it past the tear film, it's crossed the pressurized chambers, and it's been focused perfectly by the lens. Now it reaches its final destination, the very back of the eye. This is where the magic happens. This is where light stops being light and becomes information. We're talking about the retina. It's the biological version of a digital camera's sensor. But honestly, it's infinitely more complex. It's this thin layer of nerve tissue just packed with specialized cells, and its one and only job is a process called phototransduction, converting light energy into the electrical language of the nervous system. It's literally doing the impossible. To pull this off, the retina has a whole cast of cellular characters. You've got the photoreceptors, the rods and cones, which are the light catchers. They pass the signal to bipolar cells, which act like a relay station. The ganglion cells then gather all this information, and their long axons bundle together to form the optic nerve. And all along the way, you have horizontal, amacrine, and Mueller cells, which are basically the signal processors and the support crew, refining and supporting the whole operation.
Now, those light-catching photoreceptors, they come in two main types. Rods are for your night vision and for detecting motion, but they only see in shades of gray. The cones need a lot more light to work, but they are what give you your sharp, high-resolution color vision. So anytime you're doing a detailed task, like reading these words or seeing the color of a flower, it's your cones that are doing all the heavy lifting.
But here's the part that is truly incredible: the way this signal gets generated. When light hits a photoreceptor, it doesn't cause it to fire a signal, it causes it to stop firing one. It's wild. This chemical reaction happens, which slams certain channels in the cell shut, and that changes the cell's electrical state. This sudden silence, that is the signal. It's the cell's way of telling its neighbor, hey, I've seen the light. It's a beautifully counterintuitive process that happens in a tiny fraction of a second. So let's zoom back out for a moment. We've just walked through 3 distinct, highly specialized systems, and while they all perform very different jobs, they absolutely have to work in perfect harmony to produce that single, seamless experience we all call vision. So let's recap the big takeaways here. First, the tear film. It's the eye's essential protective, clarifying shield on the outside. Second, the aqueous humor. That's the internal river maintaining pressure and life on the inside. And finally, the retina, the true marvel, the sensor that translates the physical world of light into the electrical world of your mind.
And that brings us to one last pretty fascinating thought. All of this, the colors, the shapes, the faces you see, it all boils down to a pattern of electrical impulses. The light itself isn't colored, your brain adds the color. The world isn't really out there in the way you perceive it. It's a grand reconstruction happening inside your head. It really makes you wonder, what are you actually seeing?